Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. I want to say hello to Julie, Molly in Portland, Jayanne. We had someone in here from Switzerland too, which is amazing. Catherine in Oregon. I'm so excited. I don't know why I feel like it's been a while since I've done this, even though it's every month. Go ahead and start putting any questions that you have in the chat as I'm going to go through some announcements. I'm feeling really revved up this morning. I just got done doing a virtual rehearsal for my TEDx talk next week, which I just have to say, any of you who have done a TEDx talk and do keynotes, it is two completely different experiences. I mean, I teach in the keynote to not script and run through the script in your head. I teach to build like four or five different lessons and ideas. And TEDx is totally different. It is scripted and it is one idea. So, not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous. It's tripping me up a little bit, but I'm really excited. And then yesterday I had the biggest talk of my career for ChickfilA, which was really awesome. And I'll tell y'all just how I got that gig. Years ago, I spoke at, this was like pre-kids, I spoke at this Virginia builders event. There was probably like 40 people there. It was a small event. And this guy in the audience came up to me after and was like, "You need to meet my wife. She works for this company that runs events for Chick-fil-A, Coca-Cola." So about 3 years ago, I got on a call with this woman. And then 3 weeks ago, they reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you free, April 30th?" And so that's sometimes one, you never know who's in the room. It was someone husband who works for this company. And then you never know how long sometimes things will take shape. And you never know how short it is that someone could call you and be like, 3 weeks, get on this stage. So you just have no idea. I thought this was really great. In the speaker sister group, Cheryl was on stage last week for 30 minutes, 250 in attendance. They were on a tight budget, but this is what she negotiated: free membership to her industry association, photos, videos, AI edited audio, table of 8 to the luncheon to invite her people, advertisement in the program, QR code to direct to the program. This is such a great idea for anyone who is working with an event that maybe can't meet their rate or doing it for free. Hi, Cheryl. I just absolutely loved the creativity that you put into this, and I'm sure that they were also happy to do it. Okay, let's see. Also, some questions about the boot camp next week. Our 5-day Speak on Stage boot camp is great for any women that you know who might want an introduction to what we're doing here in Mic Drop and the Speaker Sisters. So you can send them the link, micdropworkshop.com, if they want to learn more. And the boot camp is a really great way to get introduced to speaking, what you might want to speak on, who you might want to speak to, and then decide if Mic Drop Workshop is a good fit for you. Some of you have asked if you all can attend, buy a ticket to the boot camp. You totally can. Some people, current students, do it just as a accountability 5-day thing, but you already have access to all of the information that we're going to share in the boot camp. But if you have a friend that wants to join us, we would love that. Okay, let's get into questions. Oh my gosh, Catherine, as you can hear, I am a little bit congested right now. Great ideas for dealing with allergies pre-speech. I started looking at what opera singers do to take care of their vocals and their throat, because I was like, this is crazy. So throat coat is really great. And then Zyacam when you feel the cold start. And then also peppermint tea does something to your congestion and sinuses. So that's what I used over the past couple of days since I was having some nasal allergies / cold. But I'm curious, anyone who's watching, what do you do if you're feeling a little bit under the weather, you have allergies and you have to get up there and speak? But throat coat for me is like the main thing. It's a tea that's awesome. NAMI, my question, how do you continue a conversation with an organizer after they tell you they can't pay you? Do you try to negotiate or just accept it, ask for pictures, footage, and testimonials? I imagine maybe you asked this before I showed Cheryl's post right here, but this is a really great example. We also have this list in the course in Mic Drop Workshop. The most important things to ask for. Well, actually, let me back up for a second. There is a gig scorecard in Mic Drop Workshop that gives you all the things you can consider when weighing an opportunity. Whether maybe this would be a really great logo to have on your website. Maybe people in the audience book speakers that could potentially book you to speak. Or maybe you have a book or a program or a podcast where everyone in the audience would be such a great person for that. So those are some things to consider in terms of audience fit. But the things that I want you to contract, if it's in lieu of a fee or a lesser fee, is always photos and videos, the access to use that videography and photography. A testimonial. This is a really big one. If they like what they hear, you want to be able to say, I need it in writing. I would love to be able to use this for marketing. So a testimonial, and then referrals. So say, I would love an introduction to 3 or 5 events that are similar, especially if it's like an association or something where there's a bunch of different kinds of those things and they all talk to each other. So photos and videos, testimonial, referrals are great, but thinking about, is this an audience fit? Are there people in the audience that could book me to speak, or would they be great potential customers? Okay, let's see. I speak on overcoming fears of being seen and heard. I'm feeling unclear on where to start reaching out to gigs. What would you recommend? The first thing I would decide is like, who is your no-brainer audience? What groups of people have those same fears of being seen and heard? Maybe it's people who are early stage in their career. Maybe it's college students. So I like to think to myself, who is the no-brainer audience that needs to hear what I have to say? Because then what that does is it makes like this huge pitching bucket of all of these millions of events smaller. You go from pitching everyone to pitching someone. And so finding that no-brainer group of people, and then I would go ahead and use LinkedIn, start searching meeting planners, event planners, uh, director, learning and development in that area of expertise, and then go on to Google and do the same thing. The other thing that I would do is, there's obviously we teach you how to do outbound, which means you find events and you reach out to them. But if that feels really overwhelming to you and you're like, I just don't want to spend time or hours reaching out to events, spend that time positioning yourself as a speaker on LinkedIn. So doing posts about feeling seen and unheard, and make sure you put in there, when I speak about this topic at companies or at conferences, I talk about fears of being seen and heard. And here's why. Start to create content around this topic and plug in that you speak on it. And then see, maybe there's people that are already in your network that are looking for speakers that just didn't even know that you spoke. And then every time you speak, it's a piece of marketing, and it's almost like this ripple effect that makes gets it easier and easier, because now you have evidence, now you have referrals, now you have names that you've spoken at, and so now you can get even more specific. Oh, I just spoke at the Texas Women's Banking Association. Great. Now let's look at the Georgia Women's Banking Association, the Florida Women's Banking Association. So each time you speak, it makes this part easier. So I would focus on no-brainer audience and or creating content around the transformation, which I love that you have here, and making sure to plug in that you are a speaker. Let's see, Rhonda, how can I design speaking engagements that align with marketing my book series to engage audiences, but also drive interest and sales for my books without coming across as overly promotional. Love this. Who in here wants to write a book? I would love to understand who here wants to write a book. So speaking and publishing is like lightning in a bottle. And speaking is such a great way to sell books, but I understand not wanting to come across as salesy. So here's a couple different ways you can go about it, Rhonda. The pre-order window. This means that you are selling books before it even comes out. You can say to events, hey, if you buy 100 copies of my book, pre-order 100 copies of my book, I'll do an online virtual webinar for you. If you buy 300 copies of my book, I will be there and give a keynote. If you buy 1,000 copies of my book, I'm going to give a keynote and I'm going to give you like a 6-month long course or something about it. So you can create these incentives that are your speaking fee, but they're bulk book sales. So that's one way to do it. And then you can do individual sales and using speaking opportunities to do that. So I have a book coming out next May. And so I am using my fall and my spring speaking opportunities. I'm running it by the event planner and saying, hey, can I have an incentive in the back of the room for anyone that pre-orders the book? And they're all down. I haven't had any pushback with this. I do run it by them before. And so I'll put up on the screen, I have a book right before I'm about to close. I have a book coming out in May. Scan this QR code, pre-order it, and in the back of the room, I'll have blank for you. It might be a copy of my old book. It might be a bookmark. It might be something else. And they just have to show me that they purchased the book, and then they do that. Last thing I'll do, which is like the least salesy, is just using Talkadot to collect their email from the stage. And then in that first email, send a link to buy your book. And you're not even mentioning it. So that's 3 ways that you can start getting book orders through speaking. Okay. Oh my gosh, so many tips around nasal. I'm gonna have to get this. It was recommended that I reach out to a business owner that is big with wellness for his employees. I talk about how sleep impacts productivity. How do I start the convo and what to charge? So are you talking about just like how to pitch to this person? I would just say focus on what's in it for them. Hey, I know that wellness is a top priority for your employees. I speak about how sleep impacts productivity. Would this be helpful for you? If so, I would love to hop on a call. It's about them, how you solve. Let's hop on a call. So that's how I would do it. How do I expand my audience? I feel I'm too specific in who I fit with. I speak about learning to give yourself grace, but I feel I primarily reach women, churches, and religious groups. That's interesting, Nicole. I almost wonder if the wording of your transformation here about giving yourself grace is putting you in that audience. The word grace definitely feels like women, churches, and religious groups, even though everyone should be giving themselves grace. Men are like, I don't need grace. So wonder if it's just a simple wording change. Maybe it is about like your inner dialogue, which is giving yourself grace. Maybe it is about how you talk to yourself. Maybe it is about moving on after mistakes. So maybe there's a simple wording change that can get you out of a niche. But also, if you're crushing it in this niche, keep it. There's a ton of opportunity in women's groups, churches, and religious groups. So it depends on which way you want to go. Any question or any thoughts on groups other than writers groups that might be interested in a keynote on the pros and cons of indie and traditional publishing? So this is interesting. This feels more like a workshop or a panel than a keynote. So I would think about for you, what is like the meaningful message beneath that? Is it people feeling like confident enough in their story to write about it? Is it owning your story? And then having a supplemental workshop that talks about this. I think this would be great at like entrepreneur conferences, creator conferences, of course, writers conferences, but those might be few and further in between. So if you want to broaden your scope, I would think about like what is the through line of writers? What are their roadblocks and how can you create a keynote that helps them? How do I get booked? I have reached out to loads of groups. I'm a TEDx speaker and years of speaking for free. I have testimonials. My website is ready. I post every day. What's missing? I wonder how specific you're being about how you help. And if you've spoken for free, where are those groups that you've spoken for free to? And then how can you use those testimonials to specifically pitch to like-minded groups? So for example, just taking that running example of like Texas Women Banking, can you get a testimonial from that group? And then what are the other similar like-minded groups that are in finance and just use that testimonial? Hey, I just spoke for Texas Women in Banking. Here's what they had to say. I wonder if you all are having trouble with blank. Insert your transformation promise here or your speaker statement. Let me know if I can help. Would love to hop on a call and help. So, and also this, sometimes it just takes a little bit, but if you have the free experience and testimonials in your website, it might just be finding the specific groups with those testimonials and also making sure you're hitting the pain point of how you help. My daughter and I speak about travel with emphasis on mental health and aging. What ideas do you have? That's a big question. I would say, yeah, that's something I would have to think about. That's kind of a lot for me to spitball right now. Let me think about it. Thoughts on integrating God and faith into your message without being, I can't even pronounce that word. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that story. The fact of the matter is, if you're going to use God in your presentation, you're going to be in the faith category. You can't really, there's no way to skirt around it. And so I think it's a decision that you have to make. Bloomy, I don't know if that's your name. It's a decision that you have to make, is like, it's either like all in or all out. It's really hard to do both. So I wonder, there is a lot in the faith space, but it is a very specific space that's hard to do both faith and corporate. Okay, a lot of people that want to work on books. I love that. Oh, I love, Stacy, your topic right here. Can you speak on the rise of Substack as a platform for speakers, authors, and content building? That's a great question, Emily. There's a lot of different, for anyone who's unfamiliar, Substack is a newsletter platform, and it's becoming, and probably people in here know a lot more about it than I do, because I'm not an active, I don't post on Substack. I also don't have a ton of Substacks that I read, but it is a way that is like easier to get discovered than doing your own newsletter. But I rarely see people, the thing that people sell on Substack is the membership to read their Substack. I don't see a lot of people doing courses or, stuff. And maybe I'm just not following the right people. I also don't see a ton of conversion from free to paid, whereas like people, if they know they can get the free version of your newsletter, I don't know how much more enticing it is to pay $50 a year for like an extra newsletter per week. I would prefer we use like Flowdesk, HubSpot, which is pretty complicated, but it works for our business. If you're looking to just get started, I think Flowdesk is a great option. Substack, I think, is definitely more like long form content that feels like a blog. But I'm curious what other people think about that. Isabel, congrats on ChickfilA. Can you talk about how you got that opportunity? Yes, you may have missed it, but I shared it at the beginning, how I spoke at a very small event years prior, and someone was in the audience, and he said his wife works for ChickfilA and introduced me. So the moral of the story is like, you just never know who's in the audience and how that will unfold. And so these small opportunities that might feel small can eventually turn into something big. And so always show up as if that event is paying you $30,000, even if they're not paying you anything, or even if it's a room full of 5 people, always show up as if they're paying your full fee, because treat every moment that you're in front of people as an audition for a bigger moment. Because that's what happened for this one. And then I'll also tell you, I was on the flight on the way to Chick-fil-A talking to the guy beside me. What are you doing in Atlanta? What are you doing in Atlanta? I said, I'm speaking at Chick-fil-A. Oh, I work for Truist Bank. We do a conference every year. Do you have a card? Actually, that reminds me, I need to reach out to him. I totally forgot. And so you just never know who you're going to meet. And you have to be able to say that you're a public speaker in order for them to be like, oh, we have this, a sales conference, a lunch and learn. Let's see. I have talked to college students about mental mindset and finding schools don't pay for the talks. I value the purpose. The message for kids is important and comes first. Yes, but colleges, and especially colleges, do have budgets. They're going to be around $4,000 or $5,000. So I would really push for that. There is budget in higher education. I've had professors pay me out of pocket. Oh, okay. This is the same thing. How do I get colleges to pay for the talks? Maybe look at the departments. So fraternity and sorority, like Greek life, even if you're not affiliated, they have like allotted programming budgets every year. And so they have to pay for speakers. So I would look at that. I would look at student government, first year programs, and first year programs, orientation, even like student housing. They have conferences. And so maybe it's not going directly to professors, but going to departments. Try that. Let's see. Oh, that's a great one, Jay. For colleges, contact the purchasing office together. That makes it easier. Can you use a pen name instead of your real name? I'll be talking about cybersecurity and data privacy and would like to keep my legal name private. That's interesting. I'm sure you can. I haven't done that before. But I know that people have stage names because maybe their name is hard to pronounce or complicated, or they want to use something else. And so I think that that's totally fine. Yeah, there are faith events that pay very, very well. So I wouldn't think just because it's a faith-based event that it wouldn't pay. What are your thoughts about incorporating the arts in your keynote, poetry, singing, monologues? Do you think corporations are open to this? I think you have to lead with it. I think it's great. There's a speaker that does like this drum routine. I know a guy who does a ton of speaking, and he is a magician. And so he does like magic tricks throughout it as well. I would just make sure that they know that's what they're signing up for and it not come out of left field. So like in your abstract, where you talk about your keynote, it's like through storytelling, singing, and key takeaways, Sandra helps audiences this, so that they know that they're signing up for it. But I think you can find ways to incorporate yourself and what makes you unique and an entertaining value. So someone who's maybe talks about mindfulness and is a yoga instructor, maybe you want to guide them through like a little chair stretch or something before. People would love that. There's an upcoming event for event organizers near me. Ooh, awesome. I'm considering going purely to understand their mindset and what they look for. Is that tacky? I don't want to go to sell. I want to learn. Isabel, I think that's a great idea. Go see what their industry is like. What are they leaning on? I've done that before. And then who knows who you might meet at like the water cooler or filling up your coffee. I think that's a fantastic idea. And report back. Let us know what you find. Let's see. Heather Powers. That's a great idea for someone who is speaking in higher education. High school PTAs have budgets as well. We'll pay for speakers. Consider alumni and parent groups as other sources for money. I unfortunately do not have lifetime access to Chick-fil-A waffle fries. That was a mistake, not negotiating that in my contract for sure. Okay, let me know if I missed your question. There was some questions that were submitted in the Facebook group that I want to hit. One of them was around Talkadot and the difference between referrals and leads. A referral is they know someone or know of an event that books speakers. A lead is they are booking, like they want to book you. So it categorizes them as referrals and leads. Obviously, leads are warmer than referrals because they are the direct booking contact. That is my understanding. Um, College leadership teams are good. That's a great one, Cheryl. Um, I've included songs in most of my presentations and keynotes. Yeah, it can be a great way to put yourself, uh, like add your edge into the keynote. I've seen people do like a quick meditation. I've seen people kind of act out these performances. The only thing that I would suggest staying away from when it comes to interaction is having people talk to each other during your keynote, because then it turns more into a workshop and less of a keynote, and it's harder to like win the room back afterwards if people are talking to each other, and all of a sudden you have to be like the first grade teacher that's like, okay everyone, like let's bring it back up here, 1, 2, 3, eyes on me. And it gets to be kind of hard. So I would, if you're going to do some sort of interaction, have it be raise your hand if you've ever this, or like clap once if you this. The other thing that I would also consider, I went to like a, inclusive language seminar once. And if you're having people stand or even have people raise your hand, always end it with if you are able. Everyone stand up if you're able. Raise your hand if you are able, because there was someone yesterday who was in a wheelchair. You just never know who's in the room. So just using that language of raising your hand if you are able. Mention Chick-fil-A as your biggest gig. What are you referring to? Amount paid, biggest crowd, most connections. Amount paid. That's what I'm referring to as my biggest gig to date. So when we talk about like, this is a good thing also to end on. Big gigs don't necessarily mean big stages or big rooms. There can be a room of 20 people that has the same budget of a room of 20,000 people. I've spoken for free on these huge stages with a lot of people in the audience, because I know it's going to be a good spin-off opportunity, meaning there are people in the audience that'll see me and get booked to speak. But I've also spoken to really small groups that have large budgets. So your goal as a speaker obviously is impact. But when you're talking about like the types of opportunities that you want to speak to, it's not always trying to land the biggest stages. And sometimes the greatest opportunities out there are the least sexy, like speaking to the roofing association. Well, guess what? Everyone needs a roof on their house. That is a huge thing that has a ton of different association chapters. And or speaking at these like the Association of like dental hygienists of Nebraska. Yeah, might not be the sexiest thing. It's not the Chick-fil-A with the balloon drop, but guess what? You can now speak there and speak at all of the other dental hygienist associations there. So don't focus more on like the size of the stage, but focus on obviously the impact that you can have on the audience, the amount that you can get paid, and then the opportunity that can come from it. Like, how can I use this to leverage more opportunity, whether that's people in the audience that could book me to speak, or the testimonial that I can then go share to other like-minded organizations. Okay, we are at time. Y'all are the best. Reminder, if you know anyone that wants to join the Speaker Sister community and be in Mic Drop Workshop, the boot camp next week is a great opportunity for them to get their feet wet. They can go to micdropworkshop.com, and I will see you all next time. Have a good day, everyone. Happy Friday.